The journey to the Isle of Aloness was a battle. A small, weathered fishing boat, captained by a man with a face like sea-worn driftwood, cut through the gray, churning water. In the distance, a needle of stone against a bruised sky grew steadily larger. The lighthouse. Clara had called it the Spear of Solitude. Elias clutched the wooden bench, his knuckles white. The cold spray on his face felt like a constant, stinging reminder. A year. 365 days since he had last felt the warmth of his wife's hand, heard her laughter carried on the wind. Now, the wind only carried a mournful howl. He had come here to confront the silence she had left behind. He, a painter whose hands had forgotten the language of color, sought refuge in the one place that held their most vibrant memories. It was here, on this desolate rock, that Clara had spent her childhood summers. It was here they had spent their last happy holiday, just weeks before the accident, before the water took her. The boat docked with a heavy thud against a rickety pier. Elias paid the silent captain, his bag slung over a shoulder that ached with a phantom weight. He stood alone on the pier, watching the boat retreat into the mist, its engine noise swallowed by the vast, indifferent roar of the ocean. He turned to face the lighthouse. It was taller, more imposing than he remembered. A tower of granite, stained dark by a century of storms. Its cyclopean eye was dark, waiting for the dusk. The keeper's cottage huddled at its base, a stone shell braced against the elements. This would be his home, his sanctuary, his prison for the next 2 weeks. The key felt like ice in his hand. The lock groaned in protest as he turned it. The air that greeted him from inside the cottage was stale, thick with the scent of salt, dust, and something else, something akin to old, forgotten sorrow. The first few days were a blur of unpacking and aimless wandering. Elias did not even look at the blank canvases he had brought. He walked the perimeter of the small island, his boots crunching on shale and sand. He watched the relentless waves crash and retreat, a rhythm of perpetual violence and apology. He explored the lighthouse tower itself, climbing the spiraling iron staircase, each step a metallic echo in the profound silence. At night, the silence became a presence. It was in the groan of the old timbers, the whistle of the wind through a crack in the window pane. He'd lie in the cold bed, staring at the ceiling, listening. Sleep offered no escape, only fractured dreams of a sun-drenched beach and a receding hand beneath the waves. It was on the 4th night that he heard it, a sound distinct from the wind, a whisper carried on a gust that rattled the bedroom window.
Why? Why, Peter, why?
Elias sat bolt upright, his heart hammering against his ribs. The room was empty. There was nothing but the storm and the sea. "It's nothing," he said aloud, his voice hoarse. "It's the wind, just the wind." But he knew, with a certainty that chilled him deeper than the Atlantic air, that he was lying to himself. He was not alone in the Spear of Solitude. The ghosts had been waiting. The days began to lose their meaning. Sunrise and sunset were merely shifts in the color of his loneliness. Elias found himself drawn to the lighthouse tower, specifically to the lamp room at its very top. It was a circular chamber, encased in glass, offering a panoramic view of his desolation. Below the giant inert lantern was a small workstation, a simple wooden desk, a chair, and a bookshelf. It was there, tucked away behind a row of maritime almanacs, that he found it. A sturdy metal box rusted at the hinges. He pried it open. Inside, nestled in yellowed foam, was an old reel-to-reel tape recorder and a dozen or so carefully labeled tapes. The label on the box read, "Thomas Thorne, Keeper, Log Tapes." Elias ran a finger over the dusty machine. He felt a tremor of apprehension, a sense that he was about to cross a threshold, but the silence of the cottage was becoming unbearable. Any voice, even a dead man's, was better than the one in his own head. He threaded the first tape, the plastic brittle with age, and pressed the play button.
The 3rd of October, 1985. The autumn gales have come early this year. The sea is angry. She's been clawing at the rocks all night. It's a lonely sound. But the lighthouse. She answers back. She groans. She sings her own mournful song. Some nights, I think I hear voices in the wind. The old sailors say a lighthouse is a magnet for spirits. A beacon for the lost. In this life and the next. I think they're right. This place, it holds on to things. It remembers.
Elias felt a cold dread snake up his spine. It holds on to things. He thought of the whisper. Why? He had to hear more. He spent the rest of the day and long into the night listening to Thomas Thorne's lonely chronicles. Thomas spoke of storms that lasted for weeks. He spoke of the sheer, crushing weight of solitude, but he also spoke of the echoes.
The 12th of November, 1985. The echoes were strong last night. I heard her again. Eleanor, my Eleanor, lost to the fog 20 years ago, her fishing boat never found. Sometimes it's her laughter, from when we were young. Other times it's her crying. The lighthouse takes your grief, you see. It soaks it up like a sponge. And then, in the quietest hours, it wrings it out. It gives you back what you brought here. It makes you listen.
He saw Clara, her hair a cascade of gold in the afternoon sun, running along the beach. She turned, her smile radiant, and called his name.
Elias, you're brooding again. Come on, the water's beautiful.
He remembered standing back, near the rocks, a sketchbook in his hand, a familiar frustration gnawing at him. His inspiration had been drying up for months. He couldn't capture her beauty, her life. The failure felt like a physical barrier between them. Now, in the cold, damp cottage, the memory was tainted. Her smile seemed to curdle at the edges. Her voice seemed to echo with a desperate edge he hadn't noticed before. He began to see her more clearly. Waking from a fitful sleep, he saw her standing at the foot of his bed. She wasn't the vibrant Clara of his memories. This apparition was dripping wet, her hair plastered to her face with seaweed, her eyes wide and dark, and full of a terrible silent question. He would lunge for the light switch, and she would be gone. The lighthouse lamp, which activated automatically at dusk, began to feel sentient. Its rhythmic sweep of light across his room wasn't comforting. It felt like a heartbeat. Thump thump. Thump thump. The heartbeat of the lighthouse. The heartbeat of his own mounting guilt. He played another tape.
The 7th of January, 1986. I think I'm losing my mind. The echoes. They're not just echoes anymore. They are conversations. The lighthouse isn't just replaying my grief. It's asking questions. It knows. It knows I wasn't on the docks the day she sailed. It knows we argued. It knows the last words I said to her were in anger. The lighthouse knows what you hide in your heart, and it will make you speak it.
As if summoned by the keeper's final, desperate words, a storm of epic proportions descended upon the isle. The sky turned a bruised purple-black. Rain lashed against the windows like handfuls of gravel. The sea rose, a monstrous, roaring beast, smashing against the foundations of the lighthouse. Elias was trapped. The pier was submerged, the island shrinking with every wave. The power in the cottage flickered and died. He was plunged into darkness, save for the rhythmic, sweeping beam from the lamp room above. Thump, 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 thump. He lit a kerosene lamp, his hands trembling so badly it took 3 tries. The flickering light cast dancing monstrous shadows on the walls. The whispers were no longer whispers. They were clear now, weaving through the gale. Clara's voice.
Why, Elias? Why did you just stand there?
"Stop it," he screamed into the roaring darkness. "You're not real." He stumbled through the cottage, trying to escape the voice, but it was inside the walls, inside his head. He saw her everywhere. Her soaked silhouette in the window, her pale face reflected in a dark puddle on the floor. Driven by a desperation he couldn't explain, he fought his way out of the cottage and into the tower. The wind on the iron staircase threatened to tear him from his feet. He had to know. He had to hear the last tape. Thomas's final entry. He reached the lamp room, the storm, a deafening symphony outside the thick glass. The beam of light swept around and around, illuminating the churning chaos of the sea. He found the last tape, his fingers numb and clumsy. He fumbled it into the machine.
The storm is here. The final storm. She won't let me leave until I say it. The echoes demand the truth. It's not the grief that haunts this place, son. Not just the grief. It's the lie you tell yourself afterwards. The lighthouse, it wants an honest confession. It will break you down until it gets one. Tell her. Tell the sea. The truth will set you free. Or it will feed you to the waves.
The truth. The words broke the dam in Elias's mind. The memory he had buried for a year erupted, not as a fractured flashback, but in agonizing, real-time clarity. The beach. A week before her death. The sky was overcast, mirroring his mood. He had thrown his sketchbook onto the sand in disgust. "It's useless. It's all gone, Clara. The talent, the vision, whatever I had, it's gone."
That's not true. You're just in a dark place. Let me help you. We can go away travel.
"With what money? Your trust fund? I don't want your pity. I want my life back."
It's not pity, Elias. It's love. Why can't you see that? Why do you have to push me away?
And then, the final, terrible memory. The day of the accident. They were on the old, slippery rocks by the cove. The argument had started again. The same bitter, circular fight. He accused her of not understanding. She accused him of giving up. "Just leave me alone." He hadn't meant to push her. It was a gesture of frustration, a motion to turn away from her. But his hand had connected with her shoulder. She was off balance. She stumbled backward, her eyes wide with shock, not at the push, but at the look on his face. Her foot slipped on the slick, wet stone. She fell. It happened so fast. A cry cut short as her head struck a lower rock, and then she was in the water, which was churning with an unusual ferocity that day. Elias froze. For 1 second, 2 seconds, an eternity. Shock paralyzed him, but it was more than shock. In that sliver of time, a monstrous, unthinkable thought slithered through his mind. If she's gone, the pressure is gone, the failure is gone. It was a flash of pure, ugly selfishness. He recoiled from it instantly, lunging forward, screaming her name. But the moment was lost. A rogue wave, larger than the rest, surged into the cove. When it receded, she was gone. Back in the lamp room, the truth was a physical force. It buckled his knees. He crawled to the glass, looking down at the furious sea that had been the agent of his lie. "It was my fault," he roared, his voice tearing from his throat, a sound of pure agony that blended with the storm. "I hesitated. I watched you fall and I hesitated." He slammed his fist against the cold, unyielding glass, sobbing. "I'm sorry, Clara. I'm sorry." As his confession echoed in the chamber, a strange thing happened. The cacophony of the storm seemed to quieten. The accusatory whisper of, "Why?" that had haunted him for days, finally changed. It was still Clara's voice, but now it was faint, distant, and filled not with accusation, but with a profound, heartbreaking sadness.
I know.
Dawn broke. The sky was washed clean, a pale, fragile blue. The sea was calm, its anger spent. Elias was slumped against the glass of the lamp room, utterly exhausted, hollowed out. The confession had not destroyed him. It had emptied him of the poison. He no longer heard the whispers. The groans of the lighthouse sounded like old wood settling. The rhythmic sweep of the lamp, which had ceased with the sunrise, was just a machine again. He slowly, painfully, made his way down the spiral staircase and out of the tower. He walked towards the edge of the water. The sea that had been his tormentor now looked almost peaceful. And there, standing by the water's edge, he saw her. It wasn't the horrifying dripping apparition. It was Clara, the real Clara of his best memories. Her summer dress was dry, her hair was golden in the new morning light, and she was smiling. It was a sad smile, but it was a smile of release. She didn't speak. She simply looked at him, and in her eyes, he saw not a question, but an answer. Forgiveness. Goodbye. He watched until her image slowly faded, dissolving into the bright morning air. Back in the cottage, he found one last tape he had overlooked. It was unlabeled. He put it in the machine, not with dread, but with a quiet curiosity.
The sun is rising. The storm has passed. It always does. This place, it can be a prison, or it can be a crucible. It can trap you in your own echoes, or it can burn away the lies until only the truth remains. When you finally make peace with the echoes, the furies fall silent, the sea gives up its dead, and you get to see the sunrise.
Elias did not take the canvases. He left the tapes where he found them, for the next lost soul who might wash ashore. He packed a small bag, left the key on the table, and walked out of the cottage, not looking back. He stood on the pier, waiting for the distant speck of the returning boat. The air was clean, the sun was warm on his face. He looked out at the horizon, at the endless expanse of blue, and for the first time in a year, he took a deep, true breath. The grief was still there, a new and permanent part of his soul. But the guilt, the crushing weight of the lie was gone, washed away by the storm, confessed to the lighthouse, released by the sea. He did not know what he would do or where he would go, but as the boat grew larger on the horizon, Elias knew one thing. He was no longer a prisoner of the spear of solitude. He was just a man on a shore, facing the dawn.